and welcome back to Sharks Happen. My name is Hal. I'm your host, going over shark attacks from the 1900s till present, mostly large sharks. We're going to get started over 20 miles off of Mayport, which is in Florida, and the date on this is January 30th of 1981. Cary Ford, he is 25 years old. He is out doing some spearfishing. No word on how distance from shore or time of day, but he is in 90 feet of water and he's at the surface when this, I believe he's at the surface when this takes place. But he's in the water, and all the details are is he got bitten in the head by a shark. Turns out that he ended up with three round wounds into his scalp, and one of the teeth ripped one of his nostrils, lacerated his nostril. So he got bit by a sand tiger, which is a gray nurse shark, the ones that are in all the aquariums with all those scary looking teeth. Came up and bit him in the head and ended up putting 3 holes in his skull, and then ripped his nostril with the other one. So he gets off light. He ends up with 9 stitches to be able to be sewn up. That's the one good thing about the sand tiger shark, is that unless it's tearing flesh, you're just going to have little puncture holes, and a lot of those can get by if they stop bleeding without even having to be sewn up. So we've covered them before where they've just given antibiotics and let them go on their way. So we're going to put this down as an attack, not an attempt to predate by a sand tiger or gray nurse. Okay, now we're going to head over to Rock Cod Reef, and that is in Sodwana, that's South Africa. The date on this is December 12th of 1978. Phillip Steenkamp is 23 years old. He's out with a friend named Anton, and they're out doing some spearfishing. At the time, they're 120 yards from shore, but they're 330 yards from a popular beach. So they're off to the side of a beach from about 330 yards, but they're only 120 yards from shore. No telling on the depth of the water on this one. It is 4:45, and they're both swimming back towards shore. Steenkamp is trailing his friend Anton. Anton's about 6 to 8 feet in front of him, and they're swimming along, and about 4:45, he hears a commotion behind him, turns around to see Steenkamp with both legs in a shark's mouth. The shark has him about half out of the water and is shaking him side to side, and Steenkamp is using both of his hands to try to pry that shark's jaws open. As soon as Anton saw this, he swam back over, and as he got back on his way over, the shark let go of him and did a tight circle around Steenkamp again, and then turned and made another charge at Steenkamp. Luckily, Anton was there and had the shot right into the gills. Shot him right in the gills with the spear, and that sent the shark on its way. He was able to get to Steenkamp, who only suffered the one bite, and he was able to take him into shore. He was lucid, Steenkamp was, and told him of the attack on the way in, but lost consciousness before he hit the shore. Right when he got to shore, they didn't detect any breathing, and first responders went ahead and they tried to do mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. That was ineffective, as they said he bled out probably before he made it into shore. As I said, he only suffered one bite. It was to his both legs, and the teeth went through the calf all the way down to the tibia, scratching it, and a number of teeth scratched the tibia in the leg, and also dug into the heel of the one leg and did major damage to the other leg also. Both arteries were severed in both legs, so that would be where he lost the blood from on the way in. I know it made another pass at him, a 7.5-foot great white, which is what this turns out to be. They were judging that basically by the scratches on the tibia, that they were just over 3/8 of an inch apart. So it meant it was a smaller great white, a 7.5-foot great white that got into them, and those are not known to switch over from fish till they're at least 10, 11 feet. So I would say this is territorial. Yeah, it did make the one bite on him and did the circle and went back at him. I think it was just going to hit him again. A lot of these territorial attacks are multiple bites, but this one, like others, didn't remove any flesh. So we're putting it down as an attack, not an attempt to predate, and a fatality by a great white. We head over to Palm Beach, and that's Queensland, Australia, and the date on this is December 13th of 1953. Neil Tapp, he is 16 years old, and he is a lifesaver. He is out on watch and he spots a shark in the water sometime right before noon. So he heads into the water. He warned people, but there's people further out. So he heads into the water and he's swimming out to warn the people that are further out that he's seen about a 6-foot shark in the area. He gets about 20 yards from shore. He's in 5 feet deep water, and it's noon, and that shark turns and comes at him. And it hits him the first time. It's a 6-foot shark, hits him in the shoulder. It hits him, but it's not able to bite him. So he gets smacked in the shoulder hard enough to give him a bruise. Then the shark goes a short ways away, turns and comes back at him, hitting him square in the chest hard, and goes on its way again. Now this one results in bruising and 2 busted ribs. So now he's got bruising on his shoulder, he's got 2 broken ribs, and he's got bruising on his chest from where he just got hit by this 6-foot shark. Now Neil says that when he got hit that second time, it hit him in the chest, he let himself go down to the bottom of the water. He went down to the bottom of the seafloor, probably acting like he was hurt so that the shark would not want to come back. Well, that didn't work. The shark turned and started coming back again. Neil says he was able to spin his way, twist his way out of the way of the shark this time, and as the shark was passing, he gave it as hard a kick as he could. He kicked it so hard he bruised his foot. Shark finally went on its way, and he gets in and he survives this attack. All he has, 2 busted ribs, a bruise on his chest where the ribs were broken, a bruise on his shoulder, and bruising on his foot. So he gets off lucky to not have to go through all that, usually at least sutures, if not sutures and some kind of a recuperation time, and maybe even physical therapy. I mean, even small sharks, they rip into a tendon and nerves, and you still have a long road to recover, unlike bruising. And 2 broken ribs is bad, but I'd rather have 2 broken ribs, I think, than go through, going through the sutures. Maybe it tore through some nerves and a tendon or whatever it does, and now all of a sudden there's surgeries to repair everything. So that's our story. And Neil Tapp, an attack, not an attempt to predate, by a 6-foot shark. We just don't know what kind. Okay, now we're going to head over to Sinsa East. That's in Eastern Cape Province, South Africa. The date, July 3rd of 1999. Colin Gray, he is out doing some surfing in the morning. Doesn't give a specific time, just says morning, and he's sitting about 45 yards from shore, waiting on a wave, when suddenly he says he sees a shark fin coming for him. The shark is coming from shore. It's coming from about 10 yards from shore. So it's 30 feet from shore. He's about 95 feet, and that shark is coming out for him. He says he wanted to be anywhere but there, and then suddenly he felt a stinging sensation in his leg, and he was knocked off his board. He said when the shark turned around to come back at him again, it grabbed his board and bit on his board, and that was it. Shark disappeared. He was able to climb back on his board and surf his way in, and he limped his way to get help, and they took him in. He ended up with 4 lacerations from the teeth. It's just 4 teeth marks, it sounds like, in the back of his leg. And he's sewn up with that. He ended up on crutches for a few weeks. They said by the size of the bite to him and to his board that it was a 4.5 meter great white shark, so somewhere around 14, 15 foot great white shark ended up coming after him. Pulled him off his board by his leg, came back a second time and got him instead of the board. He even said that, it could have easily been him instead of the board, and that's exactly it. These things, it's just taking out frustration, the shark. So anytime it's got to do with a surfboard, a kayak, or anything like that, I just think it's an upset shark. Wants whatever's there out of the water, and I think that happened here. An attack, not attempt to predate, by about a 15-foot great white shark. Now we're going to head over to Cape Pillar, and the attack happened near the entrance to Storm Bay. This is in Tasmania, Australia, and the date is September 2nd of 1978. Jim Scott, 34 years old. He is out doing some abalone diving. He is armed with either, I've seen 2 different reports, that he had an abalone iron or an abalone knife. One of the interviews I saw, he said he had an abalone knife. So I'm going to lean to he had an abalone knife because that was in quotes. That's the only reason I'm going with that. But he's in the water, it's about noon, and he's in 30-foot deep water and he's at the very bottom, and he's got it sounds like he's got a bag of his abalone sitting over there, and there's some little kelpies, he calls them, little fish, and they're over messing with his bag. So he takes an abalone and he's breaking it up and throwing it around him. He's doing a circle around his boat, actually, but he's breaking up the abalone. And this spot that he's at is a known spot where whites will hunt their seals, because there's a haul out spot there. So the seals have a spot where they go to for safety, and he's right in that area doing this abalone diving. So he's breaking up this abalone for the kelpies, and suddenly the kelpies all disappear right around noon. They just scatter. He says he looks up and sees the shark coming straight down at him, mouth open, and he was barely able to get out of the way, and the shark missed him, and the tail ends up catching him. So he gets caught by the shark's tail, and it slams him back into rocks. But the tail busted his ribs. So he's got busted ribs from the tail hitting him, throwing him into rocks. Now he's on the very bottom against the rocks, and this shark is swimming around and is still harassing him. So he takes his dive knife. Some said that it was a dive knife. Other stories said that it was an abalone iron. But he puts it in the shark's eye. Now he's thinking this is going to do the trick, but like David Baldrige had said, that 40% of the time or 30% of the time, using the weapon makes the shark go frenzied, and that's what this shark ended up doing. Now the shark is after him, and it chases him down, and he gets himself between two rocks, and the shark is trying to get at him through these two rocks. And then he says the shark went over and was almost laying on the floor of the water when it got up and came after him again. So he made his way to shore by fending the shark off with his knife or iron as he was making his way through, hugging the bottom with the kelp beds and with any rocks he could find to shield himself from the shark. He does not end up with a bite, but he ends up with his busted ribs from the tail hitting him. And he gets off good on this one. Like I said, busted ribs, yeah, they're terrible, but you're not ending up in the hospital like you would if that shark would have gotten a hold of him. He said that it was a 15-foot shark. He didn't say that it was a white shark, but you know, what else is it going to be? You're in a white shark haul-out spot for seals. So we're going to put this down as an attack. Not an attempt to predate, because the shark never got a hold of him, and we will move on. Okay, now we'll finish off our unprovoked attacks over at Audiencia Bay, and that is in Mexico. The date, July 31st of 1953. Emma Prada, she is 18 years old, and she is swimming close to shore, and a shark comes and attacks her. And as this shark attacks her, two gentlemen come out, and they're beating on this shark with their fists. And it sounds like they had to beat it a little bit to get it to let go. Shark lets go. Now they grab onto Emma and they're taking her into shore. They're pulling her into shore. The shark is circling them as they do, and it came in and attacked again before they got her into shore. And she died shortly after she got into the hospital due to these wounds. They said that it bit off almost her, I believe it was her right side. They said it bit off most of her right side. These two gentlemen went in the water beating on that shark. That's just, amazing to be able to do that. But, then to have it circling and then attack again. We've gone over 3 or 4 attacks where the sharks just keep going after the victim as they're being taken in. This is another one of those. We don't run into bite and wait, but we do run into this where they're attacking as they're coming in. So, circling, we've had that. But it's usually with the surfboard when it knocks somebody off. And, I haven't seen very many great whites circling surfboards. I've seen that with tiger shark. We just went over that with a tiger shark and a surfboard the other day where it was circling after it hit. But I don't run into it a lot with these great white stories, which surprised me. I expected to see this bite and wait happen, but I don't see it. But this is just a terrible attack on Emma. And we're going to put this down as an attack, an attempt to predate. I'm thinking a tiger shark, but who knows? Could be a bull shark. I'm thinking one of those two. So we don't know what kind of shark. We're going to put it down as an attack, a fatality, and an attempt to predate. Okay, before we end up finishing off the show, I just want to go through and say you can go ahead and order any merchandise you want. United States territories I deliver to right now. You can get that on sharkshappen.com. You can get this long sleeve shirt. It's got Sharks Happen down this sleeve here. You can see that. You have 7 sharks. You have 2 great whites because they're great whites. And then we have a tiger, mako. This brown shark, brownish shark. Looks kind of like a bull shark, but it could be a sandbar shark. But I got it there as a bull shark. The blue shark, of course, I love the blue shark. It's sleek little quick bastard. And the hammerhead shark. I could not find a suitable oceanic white tip. That's the one I wish that I had on here, because that covers most of these sharks that have gone ahead and done some major damage to these people. So I wanted to go over that. I want to go over one other thing, and it has nothing to do with sharks. Bear attacks. I watched this one of those clips on bear attacks, and this guy and his girlfriend, I guess this guy was like considered himself the bear whisperer or something, buddies with these bears. But normally the people, bears are more fascinating than I thought. The fact that they go through these changes where in summertime and all of a sudden in September or October you want to get out of town because those bears are going to start eating just about anything to get down there and hibernate. And I never knew they had these changes like that in the way they do. And I never heard of a 25th bear until I ran across this story. But this guy went against what everybody tells you, what he knows he should do, and decides to stay there in October and into, I believe, November. And both of them end up being eaten by a bear. Sounds like he ran into two 25th bears. He nicknamed them both because he nicknames all the bears. One of them, the one that ate him, I think is Machine, and the other one was Demon. So these two bears were there, two 25th bears, which you don't even want to be around anyway. And one of them, it sounds like, I think it was Machine that ended up eating them. But that's just crazy. I never thought that those bears were that complex as far as their activity changing, their behavior changing as the time goes. But you know, I don't think about bear attacks too much. So I wanted to go over that real quick. Popping open the O-Search app, there isn't much going on anymore. There's a few tigers off of Australia, and then there's a bunch of tigers out in the middle of those little islands east of Australia. Just a handful of great whites down, well, high up along the US coast and into other countries up there. So, you know, the water's got to be way too warm for them to want to be sitting at the top of the water pinging, because I'm not seeing it. So I wanted to go over both of those things. My store, I'm working on my store still. I should have that thing up. I'm going down to Florida. I'm leaving in 2 days to go back to the Keys. While I'm there, I'm still going to be putting the store together. I'm still going to be doing shows. You're going to get shows every 3 or 4 days. I was going to do that Shark Week last week and started it off. The first day it went well. The second day I, didn't care for, there's, analytics from this stuff, your algorithm. And, I've watched this Channel Maker's one of my favorite channels to watch, to get advice to run my channel. And he has said before that the best is 4.68 days in between videos. Don't do them any earlier, don't do them later. Well, he's right about don't doing them earlier, because I did that third video, and usually the next day it'll come out the gate, the first handful of hours, it'll be in double digits click-through rate, which means more than 1 in 10 people that see it are clicking on it. That third day, I woke up the next day and it was, it should have still been near 10. It was lower than 7. And that sort of thing has happened before. The last time between my last 2 trips down to the Keys, I put out more episodes than I had ever done, and I did worse than I had ever done, and I damaged it. You get fewer views, fewer subscribers, fewer everything when you do it wrong. So that made me bail on Friday. Now we're going to finish up the show with What Were You Thinking? We're going to head over to Shell Harbour, which is over in Queensland, Australia. The date on this, February of 1953. Rex Gallagher, he was out doing some spearfishing with friends. He was in deep water. It's around 6 o'clock at night, and he is bitten by a shark. Now, what happened was he went ahead and he shot himself a grouper, and the grouper struggled and then swam down, got free of his line and swam down into a little cave. So he swims down to this cave, and again, if you would have watched Flash Gordon, I think it was from the 80s or late 70s, the movie Flash Gordon, when he's reaching his arm into that thing that looks like a stump of a tree, and because people are getting bit sticking their hand in there, he doesn't see that, because he sticks his hand in there and out comes a Wobbegong shark and it bites him in the face. The story from 53 says it ripped off part of his nose and badly gashed his throat and his chin. So he ends up with pretty major damage, reaching into some secluded spot down in rocks, looking for his grouper. He finds what he didn't want was a Wobbegong, and he ends up with, you know, having to go in and get some help, having part of his nose gone, throat damage and chin damage from a Wobbegong shark of all things. Those things usually don't bother you, and if they do, you probably stepped on it, or in this case, you reached into its little Flash Gordon hole and you got what you had coming to you. So what were you thinking? You know, if that fish swims down, and first of all, or second of all, lastly, there was the movie The Deep, and that was kind of the thing with that, with the moray eel in there. There's just bad news reaching into stuff in the water. I wouldn't do that in trees. So what are you thinking? Reaching into something like that, I don't know if you're expecting something different to happen, but you got worst case scenario. He ends up surviving. That's our story of Rex Gallagher. That's our show for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you'll be back in a few more days, probably 4 days from now. I'll be down in the Keys again, and we'll do another show. And hopefully I'll have a little bit of something as far as another on-location shoot. And until then, if you go into that water, you are much more afraid of those sharks than they are of you.